Hey, John Steen here from Queen City Clay, and today we're going to talk through getting ready to throw a pot on the wheel, setting up a bat, getting used to the pedal, and everything you need to know before you actually start the fun stuff. So we're almost ready for the fun part, but we need to spend just a second or two talking about bats. So here at Queen City Clay and out in the world, you're going to see a few different styles of bat. We have these black ones that have holes that are pre-drilled. We have these colorful bats that have kind of a grid on the backside, and they come in orange and blue and brown, and then these green and brown square bats, which are nice for taking up a little bit less room in your studio or on your shelf. They're all going to serve the same purpose. They're going to let us lift a wet pot off of the wheel, and they all fit onto these bat pins. So on my wheel I have these two pins. On the square bat there's two sets of holes. You can see them here and here. We want the outermost set for the wheels here at our studio and most wheels that you'll find. So they're going to fit right over the top. You want to make sure it's nice and secure before you start working on the wheel. The black bats just drop right in over the pins. So they're the simplest to use, but they wear out a little bit over time. You can hear a little bit of shake back and forth, so they may need you to take a little bit of clay and cram it down into those openings, just so that way your bat's nice and secure and it doesn't make any noise and shake. And the one that I think I want to use, these, they're made by a company called Speedball, the ones with the grid. It has two sets of holes as well. You can see here and here, right? And to coordinate with those, there's these little nubs on the outside of the bat. So there's a single nub for one set of holes, and then the three dots. I want the three dots for our wheels, so I'm going to put the pad of my finger right on that hole, put my fingernail on the bat pin, and then slide my finger out and lock it down that way. Make sure it's nice and secure. All right, before we get too far into working with the clay, we just want to think about the wheel a little bit. So all of the wheels here at the studio and your wheel at home, if you're working at home, probably has a switch on the right side. So I'm going to flip that up, turn my wheel on, and it's got a pedal. Okay, that pedal is going to work a little bit like a seesaw. So my foot's on it right now, and I'm pressing down lower and lower and lower with my toe until it's going really, really, really fast. And pretty much all modern contemporary electric wheels go faster than we really need them to while we're trying to make pots. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit. We're looking for a nice medium fast speed for most of what we do, kind of like this. So once I find a speed that I like, early on while you're trying to figure out what to do with your hands, it's helpful to just set cruise control. So again, if we think of that pedal kind of like a seesaw, I can't drag my foot because it'll stop like that. But if I get that nice medium fast speed going, I can lift my foot straight off and the wheel will maintain a steady speed. And then I can just push that pedal out of the way. Now, I'm not going to accidentally speed up and slow down, because that's kind of our knee-jerk reaction if we start to experience something we're not comfortable with on the wheel. If we get stuck, we speed up to try to get through it, and that messes everything up. So just get comfortable with your wheel. Looking down at your wheel, it should be moving in a counterclockwise rotation. Some people who are left-handed are taught to throw on the other side. If you have already learned that way, that's fine, but both of your hands are going to get a lot to do, and not every wheel spins in the opposite direction. So here in the West, we generally throw with the wheel spinning counterclockwise. So make sure it is. If not, there's an additional switch, and you can stop your wheel and change direction. Okay, we're going to start by talking about wedging. Even if this clay is fresh, right out of the bag, we want to wedge it a little bit. We want to make sure there aren't any stiffer or softer pieces of clay, and we want to make sure we're getting all the air bubbles out. So that way it works nice for us on the wheel, it's nice and consistent. And if I weren't making this video, I would be standing while I wedge, and I would be wedging on a porous surface, something like a wooden table, or if you're working here at Queen City Clay, the gray area next to all the wheels, that gray surface, it's actually hardy backer, and that works really well because it's porous and it pulls a little bit of moisture so the clay won't stick. What we're going to do is start out with about piece of clay the size of your fist, something similar to that, so that way it fits well in your hands. So it might be a little larger, a little smaller, depending on your hands. And you're going to get it into a ball, or even better, a little bit of an egg shape. Potato, avocado, something like that, something that's a little bit longer than it is wide. And I'm just going to set that down for a second to show you my hands. I want my hands parallel right across from each other, palm to palm, and I'm going to bend my fingers in 90 degrees right at that knuckle. And then I'm going to slide one set of fingers over the other. So I make this little bit of a box. I'm going to hold on to the clay with my palms, wrap those fingers over. So there, the clay is kind of cradled in that box. And I'm going to set it at a little bit of an angle. Okay, so it's kind of like if I was going to kick a field goal. An angle like that. And I'm going to press down and away from me. And then lift the clay back up to that nice field goal angle again. Palms are going to go on the side. Fingers are going to fold over the front. And I'm going to press down and away. And it's not a whole lot of wrist action, just leaning with my body weight. Each and every time I lift the clay back up, palms go on the side, fingers are going to find this flat plane. So see that transition right there? You can see how it's lighter here and darker there. I want my fingers down on this flat, palms on the side, going to press down and away and lift up. You can get into a little bit of a rhythm. This is often called the ram's head technique. There's a couple different ways to wedge. This is a great way to get started, though, the way that we prefer starting students out with. And what you'll see is you start to get these layers of folding going on, where if there were air pockets, they would get forced out in between. If you are getting your hands too much on the top, where you're not keeping those palms on the side to keep that clay in nice and tight into a ball, you'll start to get these weird, huge horns forming. So we want to make sure there's some inward pressure, pressing down. And what we're looking for is for your clay to look a little bit like a duck. Okay, so I've got the two eye sockets and this folded bill. That's how you know you're doing it right. So you're going to smack those ears, press in with a little bit of light pressure. You can see this part of my palm near my wrist gets a little bit closer together as I move forward. And every time I lift back and press away. You're going to do this 30 or 40 times. Eventually you'll develop a bit of a sensitivity to knowing when you think the clay feels sufficiently wedged, but that takes some practice. But for now, you're just going to want to count it out. Then roll the clay back towards yourself. Smack it into a ball. And you're ready to rock.